Hi. So I'm going to try and respond to reasonable questions for anti-SJWs. Reasonable.
Are you able to understand the irony of responding to the perceived political correctness of the left with exasperated reactionary hypersensitivity of your own?
You say reactionary. We're responding to you. We're responding to the ideas you put out. And not in a hypersensitive way. I mean, we're not offended by the ideas you put out. We just think you're wrong. And we have to respond to it because it's just such a dumb thought process. If there's any hint of exasperation in our responses, it's just that we can't believe that you think what you think without realizing that it's harmful to others.
What is it with you people and skulls?
Well, he accuses you of
having a skull.
What? Then he ought to be burned!
Seriously, what are you talking about? Who has a skull? I don't know much about this mundane Matt. I think he's one of the people you bring up. The only other person I know is Bane666AU. Apart from that, I know of no other anti-SJW who has a skull as their avatar. Maybe you're watching completely different people from me, but I mean, WizardOfCause, he's a devil. That's like his avatar's a devil. That's the nearest you'll get, really. As for skulls themselves, they're cool. I have a theory that a skull is a more universally acceptable symbol of humanity than national flags or even maybe our globe. It's more universally agreeable to, go out wearing a shirt or a hoodie with an image of a skull on it than to go out wearing a shirt or a hoodie with an image of the American flag on it or the flag of your country, or like, I support Trump, or I support Hillary, or I support this candidate for election. People can call that out. It can be incendiary, and they can get really angry at it because you've shown a part of you that they have an opinion on, whereas you show a part of you that they can't have an opinion on, like a skull. Like, I have a skull here and I'm gonna die one day and all that's left will be a skull. The worst you can do to get riled up about it is to say, that's a bit morbid, isn't it? Or you could demonize someone and say they're someone who worships Satan or something, like kind of dark imagery, like metal music. That's the worst you can do. I'm surprised more people don't have them as their avatars.
Anti-SJWs often have an aversion to being labelled as right-wing, yet they regularly defend the right and bash the left. Therefore, why is being labelled right-wing a bad thing to you?
So I've never been super political. Up till now I've stayed relatively clean of politics. I feel like I've been dragged into political things with this SJW thing that's been happening to a strong degree the past 2 years. And although I'm not anywhere on that political spectrum that I can identify, I'm sure you get identified on the spectrum via your actions. You have to listen to what people say they identify as politically, I think. You can't just call someone right-wing if they don't identify as right-wing themselves, and I don't, so I don't know why you would call me right-wing. Many people in the anti-SJW community, I know JeffHoliday hates that phrase, but people like Straughan of ArmouredSkeptic identify as being liberal, classical liberal, which I think is somewhere left on the spectrum, and a lot of feminists are meant to be on the left as well, but I think they're more extreme than that. From what I can tell, I mean, I am an anti-SJW. There are lots of us varied politically, so you can't just call... We'd have an aversion to being called right-wing if we're not right-wing.
And if it's because right-wing is used as a pejorative, can you not see how labelling people as SJWs or regressives is also pejorative?
Labels can be useful. They can be useful. For instance, the reason we call you SJWs is, or feminists, which I think some of you self-describe yourself as, or regressives, we'll get to that. The reason we call you SJWs is because it's a nice, concise label for all the actions that you do. So we need we have a long way of describing you, which is to go through all the actions you are doing that are harmful, that we do not like, and we're trying to stop. White privilege, male privilege, saying everything's rape, everything's misogyny, everything's racist, even if it's not. Blocking people, shutting down freedom of speech. These are actions you do. And we describe your actions that you do is how we describe you in the long form. In the short form, we need a brief one-word thing if we can to describe you, if we're just briefly mentioning who these people are that are doing these actions. So we normally go for SJW, or third wave feminist, or Black Lives Matter in the case of the movement, not the sentiment, or regressive. Now the regressive thing is a twist, I believe, on you guys saying you're progressive, which means your views are advancing society somehow. You think you're making the world better by doing what you do. But to us, bringing about segregation in schools, teaching kids, if they're white and male, little children, that they should be guilty of what they were born as because of something their great-great-great-grandfather did, or didn't even do, or because they live in Australia or the UK, they never even had a great-grandparent who was even remotely involved in the slave trade. This is regressive. It's taking a U-turn in collective thought. You're trying to take us back in time with your views. So, regressive. We don't think this is progress. We think other things would be progress. Progress, for me, would be injecting more money into science, like the government giving more science funding, helping the people of the world to become more rational, doing a bit of what Elon Musk is doing, colonizing the solar system. Now I know you don't like colonialism, but trust me, there's no people there to colonize. Ending poverty, in particular homelessness. So a lot of people think that's pejorative and it's meant to be an insult to call you a regressive or an SJW. I don't agree myself. I think it's descriptive and it's just about our point of view. Our point of view is different from your point of view. You disagree with us on a lot of things. From our point of view, you're aggressive.
Rather than telling people you disagree with to drink bleach, would it be more productive for you to have an actual conversation about the issues you feel matter? Or is it just easier to do the bleach thing?
Honestly, no one is telling you to drink bleach. No one's telling a feminist to drink bleach. The bleach thing is a joke by ChrisRayGun. He's drinking the bleach. We're drinking the bleach because we can't believe that you think the things you do. So it makes us want to kill ourselves sometimes. So we're the ones drinking the bleach, not you.
You claim to be proponents of rational, logical, evidence-based argumentation. That's great. That's entirely laudable. But when I look at your online activity, when I look at, for example, your Twitter feed, that's often not what I see.
So Phil Moriarty's here from 60 Symbols, the science channel. I kind of can't believe this. He did a really brilliant explanation on entropy that I loved watching. I can't believe he's fallen for a viewpoint that encourages pseudoscience so much. Twitter is not the place for long evidence-based conversations with citations and things. It's 140 characters. You can't really explain even simple concepts on Twitter. You have to edit your posts to be ultra concise in a way that just kind of breaks down meaning. Some concepts, when you're trying to describe things to people, you need that extra space. You do need to go into a few paragraphs at least to fully give someone the gist of a complicated concept. Twitter is not the place for that. It's not the platform for any intelligence. It's a thought dump. I've always thought it's a thought dump. Something funny you saw or something brief that you thought. That's where it goes. It goes on Twitter. That's why you have something like YouTube where you can get maybe half an hour to an hour of video. You can put your facts on there and you can talk them through. And that's why people link on their YouTube channels to their citations or their articles and things. Not every anti-SJW does that though. It's only people who like Straughan or Tudors who are that thorough. And also these things are social, and they're based on more public figures than research-based stuff. It's the little people in the public sphere that are actually making this feminism stuff difficult for us. I guess you can impose science on that and you can study it somehow, but it's kind of obvious in a way. It's what people are saying to each other on a daily basis. What is there to study? I mean, we can muse about where it came from, I guess.
No, seriously? What is it with people and skulls?
Are you aware that the ridiculous buzzwords you helped to popularize, like SJW and cuck and regressive, have all lost whatever meaning they once had, and only serve now as catch-all insults and pejoratives to derail any meaningful conversation?
No. It's feminists who are using the buzzwords and demeaning words, like racist, or misogynist, or bigots, or rape. I mean, you've been using these so much for much smaller things than the actual things that the words used to define, that they are losing their meaning. And they're being used for everything. And they're making people lose their jobs or risk prison sentences for basically not doing the thing that the word is meant to define. To me, patriarchy is a buzzword, the alt-right is a buzzword, problematic. If that's not a buzzword we use to identify SJWs, I don't know what else is. By the way, do you live at some ancient Roman baths?
Lost whatever meaning they once had.
Are you wearing a toga? Cuck is a weird one, I'll admit. I don't use it myself. It just sounds like people are saying cock when they use it. I think it's just a standard insult, to be honest. I think if you're offended by these terms that you term as pejorative, then that's what's derailing the conversation. You hear the term and you switch off. There's been a lot of talk about tone policing recently, like if you're going to have a conversation with us about something intelligent, you can't swear or you can't get angry. I think to a certain degree when you're having a conversation with someone, if you inject swearing or insults, it does kind of make intelligent conversations difficult, because to the person you're having the conversation with, it's not that they're gonna get their feelings hurt necessarily, it's just that if someone's calling you a fuckhead when they're trying to explain to a point, you just kind of take them seriously less of the time. But you have to understand that if you say something to make someone angry, if you say something that someone like us on the anti-SJW side disagrees with because it's harmful, we might get angry with it. We might get frustrated at you for saying it. We're not gonna lose our heads and blow our top and go completely mental at you, but it's gonna make us angry if you tell us these things, like we should all feel guilty for what we're born as, or you can't flirt with anyone, you can't compliment anyone, all the things that used to mean love in the past are now evil or banned or something. You know, you could say these things to us in a calm, rational conversation, but you can't expect us to not be a bit angry when you say something like that to us. So if someone calls you a fuckhead after that, if someone calls you an asshole, maybe they're not trying to derail the conversation, you know? Maybe what you said is having a negative effect on us. And we're trying to keep calm, but we're just like... it's hard to describe it to the other side.
For the last time, what is it with you people and committing actual literal felonies? Like, you might want to work on that? I mean, I thought Ralph talk was so rational when he was fantasizing about beating up women with dyed hair, but then he assaulted a police officer, and finally I was convinced.
I don't know who this guy is. I don't know what he's done. He's not... he doesn't represent us, though. He doesn't represent me. Don't know why you bring it up. Individuals do bad things. Individuals do good things. this is some guy I don't know.
Who are you, Mr. Orlov? I feel like I should know, but somehow I don't.
In the videos and in the comment sections, anti-feminists often take up the most extreme or the weakest feminist position they can find, or they just straight up misrepresent what the feminist position is. Instead, why not take up the strongest, most robust feminist argument you can find and really challenge yourself?
Because all the anti-SJW channels, Straughan, Bering, JeffHoliday, Undoomed, Karen Straughan, all of them, they've covered every feminist viewpoint. We're not avoiding responding to them. They have been responded to. It's just, I don't think you've gone back and seen those videos. It's not like you've been an avid viewer of your enemy's content, if you treat them as an enemy, I guess. But if you go back and look through the galleries of some of your anti-SJWs, you'll find videos entitled with all the different things that feminists have said over the years and our responses to them.
I am deeply concerned with male addiction rates, suicide rates, and abuse rates, because I have worked with these issues in the quote-unquote real world. Would you be willing as anti-feminists to put aside your differences with feminists for the greater good of addressing these issues, especially as the kind of solutions needed are not necessarily gendered? And if so, I would actually like you to let me know, because I'm not fucking around or presenting any gotchas here. I actually really think that we could get something done if we work together. So, yeah.
Christiosity, this thing you said in the video is the best thing that's in the video. You're putting yourself out there as someone who's willing to help males as well as females. Some of the systems that feminists have created, though, kind of antithetical to this and kind of go against giving male victims of domestic abuse shelters and things, so it's kind of surprising to hear you say this, but yeah, why not?
What is third wave feminism? Because I've often heard you folks insist that you have no objection to feminism in general. It's specifically third wave feminism that you have a quarrel with. So what is third wave feminism specifically? And what specifically about third wave feminism do you have such a problem with?
So the different waves of feminism are separated by time periods mainly. I would say the most valuable of the waves of feminism was the first wave, which included people like the suffragettes. The second wave is the one, it began in the 60s or something. Germaine Greer is a very well-known second wave feminist. My film teacher was a second wave feminist. I had no real problem with second wave feminism, even though it's kind of similar to what's happened now. It was never anywhere near as rabid like through the 90s and when I was young. Second wave feminism wasn't an issue. They weren't frigging crazy and trying to control every part of society like they are now. And then, I don't know where exactly it started, but this new generation of feminists, the third wave as we call them, I'd say started around 2009, and they're not harmless like the second wave, and they're not even valuable or working towards solving an actual problem in society, unless they start focusing on the Middle East solely. They're trying to change things that aren't there.
Why is it that this feminist represents all feminists, but this men's rights activist doesn't represent all men's rights activists?
Whoa, wait, sexism all of a sudden? Ladies and men are different? So we're supposed to punch men and dominate ladies and open doors for men on here?
So the clip of the first girl was Trigglypuff. She showed up at a Milo Yiannopoulos conference, was it a conference? Lecture, something like that, and she was like screaming like a child at him on stage. And no, she doesn't represent all feminists. She's just an extreme case of what they're like, and there are many other extreme cases and clips from universities of people screaming. You know, you're meant to go into a lecture like that to hear someone else's point of view. I've seen clips from outside a lecture. I think it was in Canada. A guy was putting together a talk on the problems facing boys in society, and just loads of feminists just gathered outside the lecture hall, stopping people coming in and screaming at them without knowing who they were. They were absolute strangers going to see the conference, just wanted to sit down and listen to someone else's point of view, and they were just like blockaded outside the entrance from going in by these people screaming that they're misogynistic pigs for not doing anything, just kind of patiently waiting outside going, I'd like to go in, please. I'd like to listen to what this guy has to say. That guy, I don't know who he is. If you have some proof of him saying that he's a men's rights activist, or speaking at another event where he actually says he's an MRA, then that'd be interesting to see. But I don't know who he is. And not all anti-SJWs are MRAs, so I don't know where you're going with that. He looks like just some random person at a KFC being pissed off that he can't get his food.
Why am I continually asked to answer for the views of feminists if I agree with feminism's overall aims, but don't agree much with those particular feminists? Does that mean that I can ask you to answer for anybody who labels themselves similarly to you, even if you don't agree much?
That's interesting. I don't think you specifically should be asked to answer for the views. The thing is, it's the majority feminists in your movement that are the ones we're mostly addressing, and you can consider yourself kind of exempt from it if you're not doing the things that the hardcore mainstream feminists are that we're addressing. So, you know, if you're, I don't know if this is true, but if you're one of the very few feminists who don't believe in everything's misogyny or male privilege should be taught in schools, then you don't have to worry about us addressing these questions to you. You can just go, oh, well that's not me. So I guess they don't mean me. Yeah, everyone's an individual. Likewise, I personally don't want to be painted with the same brush as all the other anti-SJWs. I know we're all different. I like a lot of things that Straughan has to say, but I also disagree with a lot of other things he has to say. Likewise, there are other things that I would quite like to happen in the world that I don't think other anti-SJWs would be down with. I think in some cases there's some value to be had from sensitivity. I think in some cases meritocracy sounds weird to me.
The weak fall by the wayside, but the strong will be saved.
I think it's plausible that we could make a better world with a few less borders and a bit more unity. I know a lot of people disagree with some of the stances like that. You know, it's like you don't have to be an atheist to be a feminist. You don't have to be a Christian to be an anti-feminist. There are grades of people on both our sides. You don't paint all of us with the same brush, even if we say we're on one side or of the other of this ongoing disagreement.
If S-Jews are bad...
S-Jews?
If S-Jews are bad...
S-Jews... S-Jew... Super Jews.
If S-Jews are bad because they spend too much time whining and don't talk about real problems, then why aren't you talking about those problems instead of just whining about the other people over and over and over for literally years? You've got the real problems, you've got the things that feminists worry about, and then you've got you going, ah.
We are talking about real problems? I don't know how you came to the conclusion that we weren't. We're just debunking you as well.
Why don't you seem as concerned with actual feminist theory in academia as you are with wrecking people for views?
Well, firstly, why would we be concerned with feminist academia when we could be concerned with normal academia? And secondly, we're not concerned with wrecking people for views. If anything, I'm concerned with even more people being put in prison these days for things I would consider harmless. And no, I'm not talking about murder or rape.
since so many of you profess to be admirers of second-wave feminism as opposed to third-wave feminism, I thought it would be interesting to ask which second-wave feminists in particular do you appreciate? Which books written by second-wave feminists have you read and found interesting? Which second-wave feminist activists have you specifically admired as you formed the opinion that you like second-wave feminism but you have no use for third-wave feminism? I'm just curious.
Covered this question earlier. My film teacher was a second-wave feminist. I had no problem with her at all. I know of Germaine Greer. I don't know why I would be reading feminist books and things. I don't know why I'd be professing a huge admiration for them. It's just like a worldview some people had in the 90s. They weren't forcing it on people like you guys are. You know, it's like I'm an atheist, and it's like with Christians. A ton of Christians are really nice people. They have their worldview and I have mine. And then you get other Christians who force their worldview upon you, and I have a problem with those Christians. People who generally force their views on you are not doing good things for the world.
You do understand that reading the title of a book or an article or watching the first 15 seconds of a video is not going to give you a deep, nuanced understanding of what that book or article or video is about, right?
If you think that, then why do you attack really surface things about anti-SJWs, rather than looking at all the arguments that they've set out? It's like you don't even know what we've already been talking about.
That being said, how can you expect to understand or critique feminist sources if you don't even attempt to understand what they're trying to say?
Well, we know what they're trying to say because of what they're trying to do. So if you've got some extra insider knowledge on why we're not getting it, and why it's a good thing to do the things you're doing to people, then by all means tell us.
Why is trying and failing to debunk a study into sexual assault the number one priority for a rational thinker now? Does it maybe say something about your priorities? Does it maybe?
Oh, we've gone a bit Gollum. My precious. Debunk study into sexual assault. I don't quite know what specific thing this is referring to. I think it's referring to a specific thing, but I don't know what it is. I think he actually means debate sexual assault, if he's referring to us, because that's what we're doing, is trying to debate sexual assault. Also, I don't think it's our number one priority at all, really. I don't know where he's going with this.
Nah, it's fine, it's the feminazis, we have to stop them. They're taking away our video games. Look, Anita, I'm sorry, but I can't... We can't actually destroy video games.
I don't think Anita Sarkeesian will take away our video games. I just think the things she's saying are ridiculous. She says that the way characters are dressed disempowers them. The way that things that women look like in video games. And then she doesn't consider that there are also the same things happening with men, so it's like a double standard. She completely misses the things that are right in front of her. Games journalists, I'm a bit annoyed at how obsessed they are with feminism these days. I used to listen to some really good podcasts, which, when they were talking about games and the systems of games and how enjoyable games are, they were really, really nice to listen to and really fun. That's what gaming is anyway, it's fun. It's definitely no reflection on real life whatsoever. It's an art form. But then when the people on the podcast started saying things are problematic, the treatment of women in this game is problematic, it just really started annoying me. As I don't agree that films and games are sexist. I believe they are portraying fantasy worlds in many cases, history worlds in many other cases, worlds where things have happened in the past, worlds where things couldn't possibly happen in what they portray, like friggin' dragons and people wearing costumes that aren't physically possible. You can't say that this is portraying real life in any sense, nor is it inspiring people. It seems weird that game journalists would go to the point of saying, oh, the treatment in video games is problematic, because it sounds like they're saying it inspires things that are happening in real life. And I don't believe that to be the case. And it's surprising they say that, because after the Columbine massacre, which I've talked about in another video, games journalists were defending the fact that games don't inspire violence and don't inspire people to do things based on what they see. I don't think it's intelligent to suddenly be going back on their thoughts on this matter. They don't all seem to be. There are quite a lot of good ones who are still talking about the games rather than talking about this make-believe misogyny. And girls can play as guy characters in games, and guys can play as girl characters in games. I see no problem with that at all. And also, there's many games in which you're playing an amorphous blob. So, what would you like to impose on that particular situation?
One of the major arguments that I see in many of your videos is that it is possible to separate criticism of the religion of Islam from the actual Muslim people. And yet, this line seems to be crossed very often. I see things like raghead or camel fucker or other things like that in your comment sections. I see people taking very serious shots at Muslims in videos and hangouts, and they don't get called out, or at least not that I can see. So my question is this: why should a person of conscience who is concerned about the Muslim people and their community not being harmed or mistreated, why should they believe that you're actually only attempting to look at the ideas and talk about the ideas if you ignore bigotry that's occurring right in front of you? And in that light, would you be willing to break bread and salt with moderate Muslim people on your videos, have hangouts, invite them to your channels, just in order to build some bridges there and to learn more about what they think and how they feel and what their experience has been, so that information and knowledge can be furthered?
Jesus, that was long. I'll go for each point in order as briefly as I can. So this goes more into atheism. As an atheist, I feel we should be free to have freedom of speech and criticize religion. We are not forcing our ideas on people. We respect people to have the beliefs they have. We do try and attack the ideas and not the people. There are good Muslim people out there. I have one friend who's Muslim. I have seen many good Muslim people. I do believe what's been happening to the Syrian people is some nasty, horrible stuff, living under ISIS, and I think they are innocent and do need refuge from being in that war zone and living under those horrible people so long. But some of what their holy book says that everyone who's a Muslim should do seems like it could be some very unacceptable stuff. And I like it when Muslims see that and acknowledge that some of it is bad. That's what we're critiquing, is the bad parts of the holy book, the bad parts of the religion itself. We don't hate the people, we just dislike it when someone blindly follows devotedly words and passages they've read in a book that says they must do violent or abhorrent things to other people. Stoning or cutting off hands or capital punishment. You say that this line has been crossed very often. What would you consider to be the crossing of the line? I would say crossing the line would be like these people who hate immigrants. I mean, they really... You can tell they're racist and they hate them, and they say stronger things than bloody foreigners, and they hate Muslims and say some of the things you've said. I think someone mentioned raghead. I've never actually heard that saying before. It sounds very mean, very bigoted. Yeah, I don't want to hear anyone say fucking Muslims or fucking Middle Eastern scum, go back to your own country. I don't want to hear anyone say things like that. I work in a shop and some customers say some things like that, and I actually left a business because of a racist employee once who was saying stuff like this all the time. I don't like people who say that, but I do think we should critique the bad things of a religion. If we can do anything to make... If people have to believe in a god of some sort, then the least we can do is make them morally kind people to each other, make them peaceful to live with, you know. If you've got this religion that teaches you to harm people, surely no one wants that, and it doesn't really breed peace. I'm not sure I necessarily believe in call-outs being the right way to handle a situation. I think if those people are racist and they're jerks and they're saying obviously jerkish, harmful, abusive things to people, they will be ostracized over time. What do you mean by calling out? Is it quite a brazen thing, like going right up to someone, going, you stop saying that, you stop saying that, don't say that, you're not allowed to say that? Because we believe in freedom of speech, so our thing is not going up and shutting people up. I'm sure it's fine to invite Muslims to your channel if they want to have a discussion, if they want to talk. Yeah, I think we should be doing that more often. As long as they're willing to have a discussion about their religion and how other people may disagree with their religion and how maybe they disagree with what other people outside their religion are doing. I think that is all good stuff, and that should happen.
Do you deny that systemic racism against black people is like a thing in general? If so, what? Okay, just step up. Just cover your ears for a second and let the smart people talk.
Cover your ears for a second and let the smart people talk. Yeah, I think everyone thought you were an asshole who's watched this video when you said that. You're just being snarky, and I think someone earlier in the vid says, don't you agree that when you drop insults into your arguments, they shut down the conversation? And, you know, if you're just going to be really snarky and arrogant and say, I'm the person who knows I'm the best person in the room, it's just another thing that's going to not make people want to engage with you.
If you've ever discussed or done a video about black-on-black crime, when are you going to do a video about white-on-white crime and what we, as white people, can do to solve the problems in our community?
Why are we looking at crime as white-on-white, black-on-black, black-on-white, or white-on-black on anything like this? Why are we not just calling it crime? It doesn't really matter what the skin colour of the person involved in the crime is.
Why is a literal teenager's different definition of racism from you so horrifying that you all have to go, no! No, we have to stop him! We've got to debunk him now!
Now, she literally popped up out of nowhere, he, and said everything, everyone, she said everyone's racist. It got people angry.
Wherever did you get the idea that racism was a self-applied identity?
But that's a weird thing to ask, because a lot of racists do self-apply racism to themselves. A lot of racists will admit to being racist. People who aren't racist will generally say that they're not racist. I don't think it really happens the other way around.
You often say that you are for equality of opportunity, but if people of color, for instance, have to overcome barriers whites do not, such as discrimination and unequal treatment, as are well documented in various studies, then how can the current situation be thought of as equal opportunity in any real way? And why do you consider it racist to discuss these issues?
What barriers are these you're talking about? Specify. Everyone, no matter what colour they are, gets discriminated against. I don't think anyone considers it racist to discuss these issues.
Like, do you really not get why saying all lives matter in response to Black Lives Matter is not only racially insensitive, but just patently ridiculous?
Well, it's not actually racially insensitive, and it's not ridiculous because all lives matter contains Black Lives Matter. All lives, every life, black life, white life, Asian life. Why are we separating colours of skin? Why are you doing that? Like Morgan Freeman says on that talk show, just stop seeing the skin colour. I'm not going to say that you're a black guy, and you don't say that I'm a white guy.
Isn't it offensive to men to assume that a man could only ever want equality for women and therefore be comfortable with feminism as a whole in order to get laid, and that reduces us to beasts?
See, if I think you want equality between all genders, all cultures, all races, I don't think you would be comfortable with feminism in the first place. Because the majority of your movement under that name aren't really doing that. They're kind of doing the opposite. Reduces us to beasts? Well, what are we, in the island of Dr. Moreau now? Is this some Victorian view on how we used to think of animals? Why would we think of you as a beast for anything? I don't understand that.
If you say you're an egalitarian, will you call out the man-hating slurs that you see coming from people within your community? People who use terms like cuck, beta male, faggot, or mangina? All of these things basically distill men down into thinking that the most important thing about them is to be having sex with a woman. That's rather offensive. So what are you doing to stop this kind of behavior in your community?
No, you see, that's not how anti-feminist egalitarians work. We don't get offended at things like this. You can say anything like this to us, and we won't be that worried about it, to be honest. No, we don't really have a community. We don't police our communities. We won't call out people, I don't think. It's up to the individual. We'll decide for ourselves to try and not be jerks. As for if you see the bigoted people who call themselves anti-SJWs, they're just not doing it right. They are just jerks, you know. That's not us, that's them, that's their problem. Just as we're not in control of our commenters or our subscribers, they're free agents, they're free people, they can do what they want. That's the same with everyone. Everyone's an individual. You can be a bad person, you can be a good person. You shouldn't go around saying, this person should shut up, this person should shut up, they're saying the wrong thing. They'll get naturally ostracized. You'll be ignored and you won't be engaged with, because people will just go, that guy's been saying stupid shit all this time. Why even talk to him? You know, why respond to him? He's clearly just going around insulting people. You know, you don't have to go around putting friggin' tape on people's mouths and things. Next time you think, that's rather offensive about something, just don't. You know, just say, you know, I'm not actually that bothered. Someone just said something there. It's a bit shit. Who cares? I'll go and talk to the person over there who's saying something a bit more interesting today. Seems a bit more. Yeah, I think I'll have more fun listening to that guy over there. So I'll go over here. Ignore that guy. Why be offended? Saying that's offensive, what he just said there or she just said there, is often comes with needing to do something about it, and you don't need to do anything about it. Just leave them. You know, walk away. They will dig their own grave. Dig themselves into a hole, like David Brent on The Office.
What is the number of followers, the number of likes, the number of dislikes, the number of retweets, the number of subscribers, any of those numbers, any of those metrics? What have they got to do with the argument?
They don't have anything to do with the argument. I don't know why you're bringing it up.
Deepak Chopra, for example, a man who trots out an endless stream of pseudoscientific quantum woo bollocks, has nearly 3 million followers.
Deepak Chopra is a pseudoscience peddler. He probably believes in crystal therapy and dowsing. Wouldn't put it past him. I don't think popularity has anything to do with your arguments. Popularity can be power, like money can be power. I think a lot of what feminism is peddling right now is pseudoscience. I'm surprised you're kind of joining them at the moment. They push things out like the wage gap and the pink tax, and they are in the majority right now. So it is kind of worrying sometimes how pseudoscience gets popularized. There's a lot of people still into homeopathy. That's a personal gripe I wish I could solve, but you know, I don't think a followership is something that a person can use if they're the ones with the followers to pimp up their status as a master debater. master debater. But popularity does have some level of power with it. It's a double-edged sword.
Why is it that you go on and fucking on about safe spaces and trigger warnings and delicate little flowers, but continue to hide behind your cartoon avatars and your childish pseudonyms? And whenever anyone calls you out on your sexist, racist, homophobic, bigoted rhetoric, you become the argument of your own scorn and are hashtag triggered.
We go on about safe spaces because we don't think people should be shielded from intellectual debates, especially for me, talking about history. There are bad things that happen with history. You can't just wash them out of existence. You have to be able to talk about wars and killings and rapes and deaths and things that happened in the past without being worried and having these trigger warnings like, oh, don't be scared, we're going to be talking about killing today. You don't need that in universities, where you're meant to learn about things that did happen. What do you mean when you say hiding behind cartoon avatars? I mean, I don't use a cartoon avatar myself, but I haven't been doing this for a long time, this particular thing. I'm predominantly a gaming and vlogs channel. Cartoon avatars, Bearing, Undoomed, these, they're not to hide identities, really. And what is it with feminists and requesting people's name and requesting their address? Is it accountability, or is it finding a way to phone up their employers and fire them from their jobs, as happened with Thunderfoot, and I think ChrisRayGun mentioned it happened to him recently. One of the people on your video has a cartoon avatar. The internet was always, everyone used to be anonymous on the internet. It isn't real anonymity, it's having like a second name, a pseudonym that you use on the internet. I don't like the Facebook way of doing things, where you just have your full name on the internet. I think it was a bit weird when that first came out and my name was on the internet to sign up, and all my friends' names was on the internet. I liked the days of the internet before that, and in fact many other social networks that exist now that don't need to make your full name emblazoned on your profile. A pseudonym on the internet, to me it's practically expected. I have a lot of friends who I know through their second name on the internet more than their first name, and when I met them in real life I often addressed them by their pseudonym. I don't think there's a problem with it, and I think people have more of a problem with anonymity, or this false anonymity, than they should, and this is probably a whole entire other video, but I don't think identity and people's names are such a big thing, other than a way for you to be identified by governments and people who want to do things to you. You should identify yourself as just a way that people can refer to you, so that you know they're talking to you and not someone else. I'm watching the Tudors at the moment, Henry VIII's England. In the Tudor court, almost everyone like me was called Thomas or Tom. There was so many Toms in one room at one point, it was unbelievable. So I see the point of having a distinct name for that purpose, just so you can be identified in a room of other people, but having a name can be held against you. And the internet, people try that a lot more. By the way, I don't just have one other pseudonym on the internet apart from my real name. I have like 8. I've always like jumped from different sites, jumped between pseudonyms. I think a lot of people do that, and I don't think there's any problem with it. Who specifically are you talking to when you're saying these people are sexist, racist, or bigoted? You sound like you're talking to someone specific. I don't know who it is. That's surely a straw man thing. Why aren't you more specific about who you're talking to?
Are you willing to publicly acknowledge and admonish the massive amount of hatred, bullying, harassment, and intimidation that a lot of your fans infringe upon people? And I don't mean these tiny disclaimers that you put under the description folder or flash for 2 seconds at the beginning of the video that you know nobody reads. I mean a public and ongoing anti-bullying stance.
Again, some of you need to get this through your thick skull. People's followers are free individuals who do what they want. They do not belong to the person they're subscribed to. Bearing's followers are not Bearing's army. He does not point over the distant hills and send them with their guns marching towards this week's feminist and yell his war cries, you know, onward to battle. If Bering thought it was an army and he tried to order them places, they'd be in disarray all over the place. They'd be going, no, fuck you, Bering, I'm actually going to go this way down the pub. Another one go, no, I'm going fishing, fuck you. Like, you can't control what your followers do. They are free agents. They're individuals. They don't give a shit what the guy or girl they're subscribed to tells them. They do what they want. If I tell my followers not to bully someone, and they bully someone, it's not my doing. It's their doing. And I don't think we need an ongoing anti-bullying campaign. Is that how you want to spend your days on YouTube? Just every video going, oh, reminder, don't fucking do that bullying thing. Like, no. People who are bullying others are jerks. They will be ostracized by their own idiocy.
Or do you kind of like watching your fans go around harassing people and calling them slurs and telling them to kill themselves? You kind of like it, don't you?
Oh, you've showed your hand there. You showed your hand. This is really what you think of us, isn't it? This is really what you think we are and what we want. This is not what we want.
Do you understand the key importance of reproducibility and repeatability in scientific research? That's simply going to Google Scholar, doing a 30-second search for keywords and pulling out the first paper you find that backs up your stance is not a particularly credible way to do research. That you have to have a much broader overview, to read the material, to follow the citations through, to look at the broad brush approach to a particular problem. You do realise that you're as much of a social justice warrior as those you critique. It's just that you espouse a different form of social justice, a rather less considerate, rather less forgiving, rather less kind form of social justice.
Yes, I do understand the need for reproducibility and repeatability in studies in science. Unfortunately, I'm not one of those channels. There are a lot of people who do a lot better job of research than some of the other anti-SJW channels. Sargon of Akkad and TLD do a very good job. As for us being another kind of social justice warrior, I disagree with that, Phil. I think you're on the wrong side of things. Our side, believe it or not, is a lot kinder than their side. I think you need to dig into finding out what feminism has been doing all this time. I feel like you've only seen the surface of what's been happening.
If you identify as an egalitarian, then I'm interested in your take on the usefulness of the concept of the original position as laid out by John Rawls in his theory of justice.
Or in other words, your books are the wrong books, my books are the right books. Read my books if you want to know about how to be equal and fair to other people you meet. How exactly does that work? It doesn't work, does it? Egalitarianism is fairness between all people, all genders, all cultures, all people. You don't need to read a book for that. Or a specific book, rather.
As a supporter, as a proponent of freedom of speech, why do you want to quash academic freedom? If you're not familiar with the concept of academic freedom, it's worth, in the UK at least, looking up the 1988 Education Reform Act and seeing what that says about the rights of academics to put across unpopular opinions.
No. We want more academic freedom. It's the feminists that are trying to constrain it. We want more freedom of speech for speaking unpopular opinions, especially in the classrooms. We want people to hear everything.
Why are you so obsessed with Anita Sarkeesian?
We're not obsessed, she's just got some really bad ideas about video games.
Do you really think you can spend your entire life in a perpetual state of emotional immaturity? Do you actually imagine that you will be able to perpetuate your adolescence for your entire existence? Wait.
That clip started really angry, and then it started describing what SJWs act like. It's over. Wondrous times. Yeah, sorry, I just thought I'd respond to that. Do you think they'll do another video with a bit more meat and bones to it? Normal scheduled programming will now resume.
Yes, he accuses you of raving like a strumpet in a tantrum.
What?